So one thing that is still on my mind about your article is where would we be right now had we been following what the Kerner report was talking about years ago?
Thanks for the opportunity to continue. I think the reason I kind of went back historically to go forward is I think a lot of people are responding now about this notion of the gap and digital divide, and it's being revealed. And I still think there's just such a lack of kind of shared commitment to create the conditions for every kid to have what they need and to understand that actually inures to our collective benefit. Like a high quality education for every child, as different than just the words and saying it, but actually designing the system around that. And some people have talked about the difference between, supporting the learning of kids and, organized schooling. And so to me, I wanted to get at, if we followed some of those recommendations and that deep study then, right? I mean, there were already there was a deep awareness of structural inequity, civil unrest, like, hey, there are ways we could mitigate this. And let's pull together. Here's a report. Like it's a federal report, the Kerner report, to President Johnson about, hey, here are some things we can do to start making a big difference. And it was largely ignored.
Yeah.
Right. And so for me, the opportunity now to, again, we have a moment that's even more significant than that moment, right? Like there was national unrest, there were riots, and people were like, what's going on? Now, like with the system stopped, there's literally no reason to go back to the thing that wasn't working. And so how do we go forward? That's kind of what I wanted to get at.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I've been wondering about that. How do we go forward? A lot. So, and I really appreciate some things that you said about it. I kind of see it like, we've used metaphors like the rubber band in our systems, right? Where when you stretch the rubber band and you let go of the rubber band, it snaps back to its original shape. Mm-hmm. And it feels like that's what happens in our systems. Like we have attempted to stretch the rubber band of our system for decade after decade after decade. And when we back off or lighten up, or you talked about what happened as the state superintendent, what you put in place that a couple years later, it's not in place anymore, the rubber band snaps back. So what do we have to be doing now that helps to ensure we begin to do things differently when we come back? That's the reset. Like the reset doesn't happen when people show up at the school site in the fall or whenever they show up. The reset has to start now. So what do we need to be doing now?
Yeah, and to play off of your article, I mean, just the what if, this idea of like looking at some of the things that we could do. And again, I really like the perspective that you took in your piece about you've done this work and you're looking back on it, right? And what did you do and why? And the piece that really connects both where we are and going forward to me is that there's existing practice already that's making a significant difference for kids. So like Ron Walker, the Coalition of Schools Educating Boys of Color, you've got examples where people are working on stuff and trying to figure it out. The Met, Elliot Washer, Dennis, for a long time, people have been doing these approaches, different approaches. Go back, Dr. Comer, right? So relationship. So instead of those folks being marginalized and the other, because the system was just always chugging along and kind of impenetrable, in this time now, how do we say, coming back, how do we do things that are centered around the young person, the student, and their learning, and do that from a place of learning from what people have done. Like there are systems, there are ways, there are processes in place that it would require kind of an uncommon amount of courage and power and resource to stop everything and start the new thing. Well, all of that stopping has happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are scrambling to serve and take care of kids and keep things going, and totally appreciate that there's a pressure currently. It's the coming back that you're talking about that I'm hitting at, which is building from examples where people have created liberatory practice, where the different engagement strategies of knowing young people deeply, their interests, and then connecting content. So some of the teacher training, Art Levine, like others have said, hey, competency and being capable of knowing young people and connecting them is where the horizon of teacher training is. Like we need high quality, gifted, pedagogically minded people helping young people learn. Like that's apprenticing people into kind of participation in community. We need a bunch of ways to do that we have failed at so miserably, that if we don't do this new thing, that says a lot about what you're actually committed to.
Yeah.
And so that dialogue about, look, if you're telling me you can't do different, there's something else going on, and I want to understand why you won't do different.
Wow. Go a little further with that one. I want to understand why you won't do different. That's so,
right. And this goes to some of the framing, right, on people thinking that policies are neutral and operating from this is the one best system, and democracy just needs to be tuned, or like the people that came need to just catch up. Like this idea that democracy is an achievement, it's an activity, it's a thing that continues to grow, develop, mature, right? It requires us participating in what's the right way to organize learning so that young people, increasingly diverse and different, with different worldviews, life experiences, can fully participate and shape as different than, hey, we have a fixed system that's the best that's ever been made, and you have to get different so that you can fit in it, right? The different, like inclusion is different than belonging. So the people who won't do different believe that this is the one best system, and there's something wrong with the other when they're not succeeding.
Yes.
As different than there's something fundamentally flawed about the system. So when I come back as a leader, like if I'm coming back saying, you know what, I have fought against this system forever, and I've always tried to kind of do some jujitsu and find a way, and like now I have a chance to just articulate, build infrastructure, build the coalition of the willing, ramp stuff up, like make connections. You're going to see some people do some extraordinary stuff, but you're going to see people with almost equal resource, or maybe more in some places, who say, whoa, we just can't do that here, because their fundamental mindset and what they believe is true is that the system is good and sufficient.
Right.
And we just have to do more for those kids who haven't gotten enough yet.
Yeah. This makes me wonder about I'm thinking practically next week.
Sure.
And the week after, maybe the week after, right? Who do I want to be talking to? Who do you want to be talking to? Who should we be gathering? Is it those that are already ready to roll in doing something different and just trying to figure out what and how, and being with each other to figure that out? Is it those that don't see a way, or already believe in the current system? Like who do we go after? Who do we go after?
My answer probably won't surprise you. Everybody. Like there is no right group of people. This is like everybody all the time, doing the right code switching. But the message is we are collectively trying to grow something healthier for all of us. Yeah. Look, equity is a superior growth strategy. When everybody has the support they need and they are growing, developing, thriving, they're contributing and generating other things that wouldn't exist, right? It's very much like brain science. Like if I'm thinking about doing something new and getting different support, my brain is changing.
Right.
Like new capacity is being developed by doing different work and thinking about it. My brain is shifting to grow that capacity. It's very much systemically, structurally. We got to talk to everybody, Hugh, meet them where they are and help them understand that the current thing we're doing is so wasteful. It's wasting so much human energy, potential capacity. And it hurts everybody. It doesn't just hurt the people that are excluded. It limits and puts a capstone and blinders on. You know, I talk about like racism is like cataracts, right? We can't see the full humanity of others because racism literally blinds us to the humanity of the other. But that kind of cuts through a bunch of other stuff too, in terms of relationships, class, language. We just need to gather, I guess.
Got it. Well, that's a good place to stop right now. You know, I think going after everybody, we've got to get at it next week, right? We've got to take another step to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. It's always like, yeah, all right.
we dig in together. I really,
all right, Tony.
yeah, I enjoy the conversation so much.
All right. Well, we will continue.
Definitely.
Right. Thank you.
Onward.
Thank you.